Even though there's like 20 Spider-Man games, I only ever hear anybody talking about Spider-Man 2, you know, the movie one, or Insomniac Spider-Man. What doesn't help either is that most of these, oh wait, my bad, all of these games except for the two newest ones can't even be purchased anymore. Which sucks for people like me, cause past 2005, I kinda missed out on all of them except for Spider-Man PS4, only because we had a remastered version for the PC. And I'm sorry, but I'm gonna stand my ground right now. I am not about to buy a PS5 just to play one game. It's alright though, I know it's coming one day, but seriously though, Spider-Man 2? You guys really think that Spider-Man 2 is the best Spider-Man game? Please. I even played this game to prove to myself how nostalgia blind people are, and you know what? I kind of feel stupid as hell right now because the game is so damn good I couldn't stop playing it. But that's besides the point. There's another Spider-Man game that I played like an absolute crackhead back in the day, and when I go online, besides maybe a few decent-sized videos, there's nobody really talking about this game. Am I crazy? Because this is like one of my favorite superhero games of all time. And that game is none other than Ultimate Spider-Man. And in my opinion, I think it's the most unique one out of all of them. So let's talk about it.
Our fathers died to create me, and now you will too.
This short dialogue with Venom before we battle it out with him on the high school football field during this dark and stormy night is stuck with me for all these years. I absolutely love this version of Venom. He's dark and menacing, and even though he's coherent, he sounds barely human. Which is crazy because before this point, I thought Venom was like an absolute goofball. Like,
Here it is, the records room.
Surf the web, surf the web.
Shut up, Brock, we don't have time.
he was the Joker to Spider-Man's Batman. Just look at these cutscenes though. The cel-shaded graphics. This game looks like a playable comic book in a literal sense. Anyways, after we defeat Venom, we're dropped into the world proper for this game's tutorial section, and already we're competing for Best Spider-Man Game because they gave us a double jump.
It's me, the amazing jumping man.
I like how we were just thrown straight into the action too just a few minutes ago, and this tutorial doesn't even feel like one. It just blends in with the story. If you take away the funny commentator from Spider-Man 2, the tutorial section in that game is actually pretty boring, but I kinda get it though. The traversal mechanics are way more complex in that game than in this one. And without those green little question marks around the city, I wouldn't have found out half of the shit you could do in that game. Anyway, MJ's repairing our Spidey suit.
Ta-da!
You scared me.
You done with my butt? Hole yet?
After that, a short combat section, and finally, this is what we've all been waiting for. This blew my mind back then, because when I got this game, I just tossed it in my PS2 and started playing it. I had no idea how important Venom was. Then, out of nowhere, we have control of him, and I lost my shit. I appreciate how Venom doesn't just feel like a Spider-Man palette swap either. He has his very own gameplay and traversal mechanics, and compared to Spider-Man, he feels like the Incredible Hulk. Instead of web swinging, he just has this giant-ass jump that launches him in the air, and instead of web zipping, he just slingshots himself around with his tentacles. He even takes his claws and digs them into buildings when climbing, just to sell how powerful he is. Also, too, we get to have payback on that little sniveling brat from the last game. Not only is he having trouble holding on to his balloon, but thanks to us, he's having trouble holding on to life. After we beat the crap out of a few groups of thugs, we grab this motorcycle and just toss it through a building nonchalantly and proceed to have a fist fight inside of a bar with Wolverine. It's funny too, because if Wolverine gets a hold of you, he can just ragdoll your ass across the room. And yeah, I know this fight is pretty basic, but come on, it's Wolverine versus Venom, baby. They purely did it out of fanfare. Just another reason why I love this game. I feel like every single thought that went into this game's development was, yeah, but will it look cool? And really, that's what this game is all about. Just a cool-ass superhero game. Come to think of it, that's what a lot of these early to mid 2000s games were. Sports games were cool, racing games were cool, and I'm sorry, but you're not gonna see that ever again in games today. At least I doubt it. Especially when you have boss fights like this version of Rhino. Sure, we fought the Rhino early in the last game, but this time is different. First off, Rhino's just this giant-ass mech the size of Optimus Prime. And he's not just showing up for us to wail on him a few times like in the last game either. We're going on a journey with this one. We're literally chasing him through the city while he's leaving holes through entire buildings and knocking down light poles, just tossing around cars. People are getting trapped under wreckage and we gotta save them. Criminals are looting stores while everyone is distracted by the chaos. We stop and fight him at a construction site and get to smack him upside the head with a wrecking ball. Then we chase him to this car dealership and fight him while he's just tossing cars at us and doing ground pound AoEs. If there's one thing that could have made this fight even more perfect is during his last phase where he just starts charging at us, if we could just jump out of the way and his horn get lodged into a wall like in the PS1 Spider-Man game. And sure, these fights can boil down to wait till they're done attacking before you're allowed to do damage, but for me, it's the spectacle. Even later on when you fight Electro, it was just really cool that if you didn't take out the billboards, he would just drain the electricity from them and regain his health. So I was grabbing cars and tossing them at the billboards, all while trying to make sure Spider-Man doesn't die. Again, why the hell doesn't anybody talk about this game? Sure, I felt like the game got a little bit repetitious towards the end, especially with the fight against Beetle. That chase sequence was a little bit tedious, and trying to fight him on top of that building where if you accidentally fall off, you have to restart, it kind of felt jank. It wasn't until the chase scene with Green Goblin that the game started repeating itself. Like I said, chase scene. But the game's like 4 hours, so honestly, is it just really a nitpick at the end of the day? Compared to some of Ubisoft games where you have to do the same outpost for like 80 goddamn hours. Sure, doing Viking raids in Valhalla is fun for the first 30 hours, but after finding out I'm only halfway done with the game, we got a problem. And I think that's a nice segue into games just respecting your time. Believe it or not, there was a time where games, even open world ones, were short linear experiences. If a game was 8 hours long, you could bet that those 8 hours were going to be quality, instead of you hating them because by the end, they just turn into your second job. Even crazier, unlockables weren't behind paywalls? Even in this game, though there's very few costumes to unlock after you beat the game, at least they aren't microtransactions like in most games today. So since I'm an old man now with bills and responsibilities, and I got a kid of my own now, I'm seriously strapped for time. I don't want those minuscule few hours that I have to sit down and play a game be spent grinding away experience just for the privilege to play the next story mission. I appreciate being able to boot up an old retro video game and have that entire experience from start to finish be no more than several hours. And Ultimate Spider-Man is the perfect game to jump back into after 20 years, not only because of how short it is, but also because it looks like it hasn't aged a day since I last played it all those years ago. We always hear about how games like The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker is an unsung masterpiece in art design, and how Nintendo makes these evergreen, timeless classics that look as good today as they did when they were released. Even though when it came out everybody said Toon Link looks like a baby and that Nintendo makes games for babies. Pretty soon we'll start hearing about how Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom ruined Zelda's game design and how at least Skyward Sword was true to Zelda. Actually, wait, never mind. What I'm trying to say is when you look at Spider-Man 2 and Ultimate Spider-Man side by side on the same exact console, it's night and day. You can't sit there and tell me that Spider-Man 2 has aged as gracefully as Ultimate Spider-Man, even though they were released only a year apart from each other. And this isn't me ragging on Insomniac Spider-Man either, but you know those faces still have that uncanny valley kind of vibe to them. Even modern games today will probably look bad 10 years from now, but games like this, I mean, come on, it looks like a comic book. It'll never age because it's not trying to mimic real life. Yeah, Marvel Spider-Man looks amazing, pun intended, but sometimes I feel like games look too good these days. Honestly, it's hard to see them. Everything just gets lost in this visual clutter. That's why games have to use the infamous yellow paint, because there's so much detail going on at once that you don't even know which part of the environment is interactable. I think it's pretty funny that publishers haven't caught on yet, but people don't care about graphics all that much. That's why people are always complaining when a game is 30 frames per second instead of 60. Games from this generation don't look much better than the last gen either. Even standout games like Hellblade 2 end up flopping, because even though that game is probably the most photorealistic game that I've seen, at least on console, it still flopped. I haven't played it, but from what I've heard by nearly everyone on the internet is that it's short and repetitive, further proving my point that visuals alone don't make a great game. There's this meme I like, it's a Sonic meme or something. It says something along the lines of, I want my games to have worse graphics by people who are getting paid more to work less. And man, that's so true. It's funny, but it's true. Because if you think about it, that's kind of the independent scene. Some of the best games that I've played in the last 10 years were budget indie games like Hollow Knight and Hades. It's kind of sad when you hear about Hi-Fi Rush and Tango getting shut down, because I was hoping that we might get a big AAA game like Ultimate Spider-Man. Something that looks like a living, breathing comic book, but with the quality of something that Insomniac or even Tango might do. But now I don't know so much anymore. What I do know is that if you have a way to play this game, you should. I've actually been going back and emulating all my favorite retro games on the Steam Deck, especially the Spider-Man games. After playing Marvel Spider-Man on this thing, I just had the urge to go back and play not only the other Spider-Man titles, but also other cool-ass superhero games. Like, I want to go back and play the Incredible Hulk game. You know, the one where you could use cars as boxing gloves? That's another awesome game. But Ultimate Spider-Man, it's just something I wanted to make a video about because it was just shocking to me how good that game still looks today. And the fact that you can play as Venom? Seriously, I'm gonna keep saying it. Why is nobody talking about this game? Go play it, like, now. And yeah, I'll probably make another video like this. I've really been thinking about deep diving into Spider-Man 2, or like I mentioned before, Incredible Hulk. I have been playing a lot of old Need for Speed games, specifically the Black Box era, and I just beat Need for Speed Most Wanted for the first time, and that game was so cool. And Need for Speed Underground 2, that's another one. Underground 1, not so much. That game is aged like milk, seriously. That game is so goddamn broken. But no, I'm not going to start rambling again because honestly, that's what this entire video has been. I'll see you guys next time.